Today's show, Sean Highkin of Rose Garden Report is back on the program, and we're playing a game. It's over-unders. Welcome to Locked On Blazers. Let's get into it.
You are Locked On Trailblazers, your daily Portland Trailblazers podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day.
What up, world? It's your past first point guard and Trailblazers reporter, Mike Richmond. You are listening to another episode of Locked On Blazers, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, available wherever you get podcasts and also on YouTube. Thanks for making this show your first listen. It's coming at you each and every weekday. Well, just kidding. In August, Monday, Wednesday, Friday. That's our delivery schedule. So get with the program and subscribe to it. It's free on all platforms. So hang out with us. We'll be back 5 days a week in September, but for now, it's Highkin week. In today's show, we're playing a game. Let's get into it. Joining me now, you know him from the Rose Garden Report. You've read him on Substack. He's available in your inbox. Subscribe to the newsletter, support independent journalists, and you know him because you've been listening to the shows all week. He was here Monday. He was here Wednesday. He's still here on Friday. It's Sean Highkin. Sean, you ready to play a game?
Yes, sir.
All right, let's do it. Today's game, we're playing over-under. I'm going to give you a line for something Blazers related, and you're going to pick over or under that line. This, what do they say for the gambling house? For entertainment purposes only. We are not going to be wagering any money on these.
Don't take gambling advice from me. I'm going to just say that. I'm just going to say that up front. Like, if you take anything I say and put money on it, and you lose that money, I can't help you.
Oh, and in any case, these are unique to my brain, not even available on FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the Locked On Podcast Network. Anyways, over under 175 minutes of the Shaedon Sharpe, Anthony Simons, Scoot Henderson trio together on the court. For context, last year they played 66 minutes in 11 total games. 175 minutes for the Triple S trio.
We're assuming that. Do I have to factor in whether I think, somebody's going to get traded before the?
It's all part of it. Will Anthony Simons be around long enough to be part of the plan? Over under 175 minutes.
I'm going to say over. I don't feel great about it just because of that aspect of it. I still, if I had to guess, I don't think Ant's going to get traded before training camp. But if he is still on the roster on opening night, then I'm going to easily take over just because a lot of those guys only playing 70 minutes or whatever you just said together was because of health and availability. And I have to think that's going to be
66 minutes in 11 games. So if you think they're going to play, I didn't
more
go
than
higher than
games.
I didn't go higher than 175 because it's like, what if Ant is not on the team in February, but assuming that he's on the team in the fall,
I'm going to say
I think they'll play that trio a lot. What do you think? Do you think that we'll see that trio a fair amount?
Yeah, why not try it out? I mean, you want to see how it works. Again, one of the problems with last season was none of the guys were healthy enough to actually see what you had. If you have guys healthy, you gotta try out those different combinations.
Yeah, and I think even with the they do have a lot of dudes who can play forward. They have a lot of guys who you could plug in. They're certainly a little crowded there. Crowded is maybe the wrong word. They have a lot of options there. Every team has 15 players. But I do think there's some priority to get these dudes 30 minutes a night, and this is one way to do it. And I think if Deni helps them rebound a little bit better, then maybe they can play smaller.
Play him at the four somewhat.
Yeah. Every time I think about how the Blazers can solve a problem, I always somehow land on Deni Avdija. I'm like, okay, well, he'll do some playmaking stuff and he'll do some shooting. And every time I sort of cook up how will they solve this thing? It's the riddle always ends with, they'll just put Deni that spot in.
It was a good trade, man.
Yeah. It's honestly, maybe I am putting a little bit too many eggs in the Deni basket, but I think his skill set, at least in theory, checks so many things that they need. It checks so many things that they need. Speaking of, over under 2 triple doubles for Deni Avdija. For context, he's never had one. However, in January of last year, he had 19, 14, and 9 against the Atlanta Hawks, and then Wes Unseld Jr., who was later fired for this and only this, took Deni out of the game. There's no other reason Wes Unseld Jr. was moved into the front office other than preventing Deni from getting beautiful, sweet, statistical symmetry. Over under 2 triple doubles for our man Deni.
I'm going to go under because I think he's going to get one.
Yeah.
I'm not going to sit here and predict that a guy that's been in the league for 4 years and has never had one is going to have
0,
2.
right?
But I think he's going to get 1.
This is on a podcast that came out 1 week ago, but Brandon Sprague predicted that Deni Avdija would have 4 triple doubles in the first 35 games.
Sure, why not?
Okay, Sean, next over under 17 and a half minutes per game for Donovan Clingan. 17 and a half minutes per game on the season for Donovan Clingan.
I'm going to go over just because I don't know what's going to happen with Robert Williams, whether he's healthy enough to stay on the floor more than that, or if he's still on the team, one thing we know about Chauncey Billups is that he has the option to play a guy who is a defensive liability and a guy who isn't a defensive liability. He's always going to play the guy that isn't one. And so I think
shout out to Justin
Donovan is going to get more minutes over WAP. And then, with DA, you don't know, that's one of the guys theoretically towards the end of the season, they might, do something to, do something with their record and their lottery standings. That might be one of the guys that they do something like that with. So
I would say certainly the presence of Clingan makes DA a trade candidate. Maybe not a strong one, but a trade candidate in the grand scheme.
In the grand scheme, yes. This is a little bit of a digression, but there was like 3 weeks ago, I started hearing 3 different, I think it was Simmons had it, maybe Lopo, one of the ESPN ones. I heard 3 different podcasts talk about DeAndre Ayton for Brandon Ingram type of hypothetical. And I was just what?
Yeah, it's so bizarre.
No, but my thing is obviously you drafted Donovan Clingan because you view him as potentially the future, long-term center of this rebuild. That's going to be your guy. But, for all the reasons we went over in the last episode when we talked about kind of expectations for him, is he going to be able to start and play play starter minutes year 1? Probably not, because of the conditioning.
Yeah, maybe in March. Maybe in March. We'll see.
I think DA is a perfectly fine put up numbers on a bad team guy for right now. So I don't think he's as much of a trade candidate as some of the more obvious guys like Ant, Jeremy, and Rob. So I don't think DA is a long-term, 5 years from now he's still on the team guy, but I also don't think it's nearly as urgent to move him as it is, in the next year.
Oh yeah, I would agree with that. I would rank him as, of the 5 guys we've mentioned in this week of shows. If obviously everyone's listened to every one, make it your first listen whenever it's available to you in August, Monday, Wednesdays, and Fridays, all month long. But of the vets that are likely to be in trade conversations, Anfernee Simons, Jeremy Grant, Rob Williams, Matisse Thybulle, I would probably rank DA 5th in that group. I don't think obviously he might have more trade value than some of those guys, but I would just say
I don't know about that, because I feel even though I think he had a good, certainly a good second half of last year.
Yeah, he was
but I still nationally, I don't think his reputation.
Right.
Really
can another team talk
was.
themselves into this last 6 weeks of DeAndre Ayton?
I still think in the same way, in one of the episodes we recorded earlier this week, you said something about how you read stuff from outside of Portland that said that they're committed to building around those 3 guards when, those of us locally kind of are maybe have a different view on it. I feel kind of in that same way that people who, aren't paying attention to every single thing this team does every single day, like you and I do, maybe don't have as much of a nuanced view of actually once DeAndre Ayton got comfortable in Portland and got comfortable in the system, he actually was mostly pretty good for a lot of last year and really kind of rehabbed a lot of his, his kind of standing. I think most people nationally still look at him as, guy who was drafted number 1 instead of Luka, and, the way things ended in Phoenix and the ice thing and all this other stuff. So I don't know how much trade value DA would even have right now, even though he had a pretty good year last year.
Yeah,
just because of the perception of him nationally being what it is.
And it's who not many teams in the league want to pay a center that much money.
Right.
But I think for me, it's on the Blazers end is that he has 2 years remaining on his contract. And I feel like if you draft Donovan Clingan, it would be really surprising to offer DeAndre Ayton another contract. Right. I think so. I think I just think the writing's on the wall, and whether they don't need to do it this year, but then if they enter next season, again, expiring contract, all
Right.
things, it changes the calculation. I think in March you could bump up my man Don to 28 full minutes a game.
That's why I took the over pretty easily on that over under that you just gave me, because I think like it might be 14 for the first 2 or 3 months of the season, and then 30 like the last month and a half of the season.
Right.
And then it averages out to being over 17.
So I was going to do 22 and a half, not 17 and a half, an extra 5 minutes. And I think
that's a little high for a line.
Yeah, I think that's a little high. So then I looked up what Myers Leonard played his rookie season, because I think the teams are relatively comparable.
Sure.
And he played 17 minutes. So I was like, that's what we're going. We're going with the Myers Leonard line.
Right.
So it's like he had guys in front of him. It was a team that was lottery bound. He had JJ Hickson in front of him. It's tough to crack.
Mr. Double-double.
Yeah.
People forget JJ Hickson had a crazy double-double streak that they mentioned on every single broadcast.
No, actually, I'm not going to share that story. I have a JJ Hickson story that if you see me on the street, I'll share it with you.
I think I know what you're talking about.
Join us in the second segment. I got more over-unders for Sean, including one about Scoot Henderson shooting 3-pointers. So that's what we'll do in the second segment. Join us there, won't you? But first, I want to tell you that today's show is sponsored by BetterHelp. We're all going through things, whether it's big things, small things, whatever it is. That's what life is. It's a bunch of things, and they can be challenging. And the best way to navigate those challenges is with therapy. There are a bunch of different ways to get therapy, but BetterHelp is one of the most convenient and one of the most affordable. So if you are thinking about giving therapy to navigate big things, to navigate small things, whatever you're dealing with, maybe you're struggling with comparing yourself to a past self or a future self you want to be, or measuring up to your peers, or whatever it might be. Therapy can be incredibly valuable. So if you're thinking about getting started with therapy, give BetterHelp a try. It's entirely online. It's designed to be convenient, flexible, suited to your schedule. You just fill out a brief questionnaire. You get matched with a licensed therapist. And then when you can switch therapists whenever you need to, at any time, for no additional charge. Never skip therapy day with BetterHelp. Visit BetterHelp.com/LockedOnNBA to get 10% off your first month. That's BetterHelp, HELP.com/LockedOnNBA. All right. Still chatting with Sean Highkin and Rose Garden Report. Still playing over-unders here on this episode of Locked On Blazers. Over-under, Sean, 35% from three for Scoot Henderson next season. On the year as a rookie, Scoot Henderson shot 32.5% from three. However, over the final 19 games of the season, he shot 35% from three on 5.3 attempts per game. Are you buying the progression? Is Scoot Henderson a 35% three-point shooter, over or under?
When you read those numbers, I was surprised that his overall number on the season was that high at 32.
Felt like he shot more bricks than that, isn't it? Felt like he shot a lot more bricks.
I'm going to say under, but not like crazy under. I think it's going to be maybe like 34 and a half. So like in the vicinity, I'm not comfortable. Like just like with the, not wanting to make the leap of saying, oh, Deni Avdija, who's never had a triple-double, is going to have 2 triple-doubles. I'm going to sort of hedge here and say I think he shoots under, but not under the 35, but not like super under, like maybe more of like a 34 and a half.
Yeah, I actually think of the things that Scoot is bad at, the 3-point shooting is the one that he's closest to figuring out.
His shot looks fine. It's
sometimes his feet get a little hurried. Like he can get his base is a little bit off, but everything he did was a little bit hurried last year. Yeah,
that's something that like he'll. And the thing about Scoot, and this is also something that like I having been around the team the whole year and having gotten to know Scoot quite well over the year that he was in Portland, one of the things that makes me confident that he's going to be fine is he's going to put the work in to work on all this stuff. Like all the stuff you hear about him off the court and all that intangible stuff, that's all like off the charts good. Like he's a guy, like he likes to watch film. He likes to be told what he needs to do better. Like he's going to work on this stuff. Like I have no doubt in my mind about that.
Yeah, I'm much more concerned about the layups and his in-between game where he seems to get a little bit caught between pass, shoot, pick up your dribble type of stuff and the getting all the way to the rim and finishing stuff than the 3-point shooting. I actually think particularly as if teams are going to go under, like him shooting comfortable standstill shots, and he was a little bit better shooting off the dribble than as a catch and shoot guy last year, because I think it's just his comfort as getting into dribble. I would probably lean with you under 35%, but I think your number's right. I think 34 is right in there. So I probably should have just set the line at 34 so we could have got better action. That's just how it goes. Okay, over under 50 games in a Blazers uniform for Jeremy Grant.
Under. I don't think, because I don't know one way or the other whether he's going to get traded in the offseason. But I think if he doesn't get traded it's the thing I said when we were talking about this, one of the other episodes we did this week, where he's the exact type of guy that at the deadline, some team is going to say, hey, this is going to be our version of trading for PJ Washington. And that's going to be what unlocks our finals run, or like the Knicks trading for OG. Like, he's not as good of a player as OG Anunoby, but it's like the same type of idea of teams that are like on the cusp of like being a play-in team or being a playoff team, see what's out there, and they talk themselves into, hey, we're one piece away from really making a run. And I think just because of like this new CBA stuff, the flip side, we were talking earlier about the new CBA making teams a little bit more reticent to give stuff up because of the luxury tax implications of like having more highly paid guys. I think also on the flip side of that, how wide open everything is. We've had, what is it now, 7 different champions in the last 7 years now at this point. And, all these different teams, like nobody going into last season probably thought Dallas was going to make the finals, and they did. And like, a team like Minnesota that like suddenly makes the conference finals, or Indiana, who nobody would have picked to make the conference finals going into the season, but then they made a couple of trades. They got Siakam at the deadline, and they, went on the little run that they went on. Teams are going to start talking themselves into, we could be, if we just trade, 2 first-round picks and whatever for Jeremy Grant, we can be this year's Dallas and make the finals unexpectedly. Like teams are going to convince themselves of that. So I think if he doesn't get traded this offseason, I think it's somewhat likely that something happens at the deadline.
Yeah, 50 games is basically the trade deadline. Also,
yeah,
that was my guess. I think. I'm skeptical that they end up with 2 firsts for Jeremy Grant, but I wouldn't be surprised if they get a useful value for him, because as you mentioned, the sort of PJ Washington corollary, and if nothing else, like the teams that would be interested in Jeremy Grant because of the length, it's not the money, it's the years down the line on his contract. It's the 4 years of Jeremy Grant. It's like teams that are really good aren't going to worry as much about down the line. They're going to be like, we're pretty darn good in April, in February, and we want to be really good in April. Let's go for it. And that kind of will change the calculation. I think I will also go under on 50. Okay. Over under for a season high of 40 points for Shaedon Sharpe. His career high was 30 in March of 2023. And also in a game that you mentioned earlier this week, he had 29 against Cleveland in November of last season. Over under 40 for Shaedon Sharpe's season high.
I'm going to take a swing here and actually go over, just because he's going to have so much runway to do whatever he wants. Cause this is such a big year for him as far as, is he going to be like this, long-term, this is our offensive, this is our biggest scoring threat, over the next however many years. Like, is this our guy? Like, he's going to have to show that at some point, and he's going to be given every opportunity to show that. So I'm going to be ambitious there and actually go over.
Can I give you I don't think I've shared this publicly, my comp for Shaedon Sharpe that people are going to, many will dislike? It's
not baby Kobe like Sprague.
No, I made him talk about that on the podcast last week. I was like, he's so baby Kobe, because that's mean. You shouldn't do that to someone. You shouldn't compare them to one of the, 10 or 15 best players ever.
I remember Chauncey one time, like early his rookie year, he asked Chauncey about it, and he said that he compares Shaedon to a cross between Brandon Roy and Vince Carter.
I mean, listen, Shaedon Sharpe is very, very talented. He's very, very talented. I
don't think you should be comparing guys to Hall of Famers like this.
I think that's messy.
Their career before you know what they are. That's why I think that kind of did Scoot a lot of disservice. He comes into the league and immediately it's like, oh, this is Derrick Rose, this is Russell Westbrook, this is John Morant, and like that just put these expectations on him that comparing Jonathan Clingan to Walker Kessler, that's a lot more attainable. That's a lot more reasonable.
It's very similar. He's like, bouncy Joel Prisbilla or whatever it is.
Golliver had that. The one that Golliver, when I was with Golliver in Vegas and we were talking about it, and he was like, Joel Prisbilla, but good was his.
I would say he a little bit of Sam Dallenberg. I'll throw a Sam Dallenberg.
I love that. I love a cross-racial comparison. That's something I try to be better about.
Shout out to so my comp for Shaden Sharp, Jason Richardson. I think he could be a Jason Richardson. Really good athlete.
Don't hate that.
Really good athlete, really good scorer, was a very good starter on a bunch of teams that made the playoffs. I think Jason Richardson is a reasonable comp for him. He didn't make an all-star team. So then you feel like, but Jason Richardson was he's in the Hall of darn good, and he was on some special teams, including the We Believe Warriors.
You see a lot of Warriors Jason Richardson jerseys.
Yeah.
In the Bay Area.
2-3, baby. Everyone rocking the 2-3.
Yeah, it's I don't hate that.
Yeah, I think some people will hate it because you're literally just supposed to compare him to Hall of Famers. So if I had to do my Hall of Famer, he reminds me a little bit of like Bill Walton mixed with Clyde Drexler. Okay,
let's go.
He reminds me a little bit of Damian Lillard mixed with LaMarcus Aldridge.
John McClingan is the Bill Walton mixed with Arvydas Sabonis. That's what
he is. He's exactly. He's fully actualized Sabonis meets Walton. I'm glad this show doesn't get clipped anymore. In any case, let's close the show. I got more over-unders for you. Join us in that third segment, won't ya? But first, I want to tell you that today's show is brought to you by FanDuel. It's America's #1 sportsbook, and it's the official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. We're entering the stretch run. August is here. We're cruising towards the postseason. If you want to get on the action of Major League Baseball, there are games every single day that you can get in on the action. But FanDuel's not just rewarding you for, chasing your MLB bets. They're making it fun to bet on stuff all summer long, whether you are a new subscriber or new user of FanDuel, or you're a longtime veteran. They're hooking up all customers with a boost or a bonus daily. That's right. Something for everybody every single day, all summer long. So head over to FanDuel.com and start making the most out of your summer. It's FanDuel, an official sports betting partner of Major League Baseball. Still a pass first point guard. I'm still Mike Richmond. You're still listening to Locked On Blazers. Still chatting with Sean Highkin, a Rose Garden Report. It's been Highkin week here at Locked On Blazers. If you missed any of the episodes earlier this week, go back and listen. Sean's been here for 3 of them. This is the end of number 3. Over-unders. 82 more, over under 83 more games coached by Chauncey Billups. Will Chauncey Billups get to an 83rd game in the remainder of his Blazers career?
Under. But I'm going to go exactly at the under. I don't think anything is going to happen in season. I think, and I've been writing this since April. It's very, it's common knowledge that he is going into the last guarantee year of his contract. They have a team option for the 25-26 season. As far as I know, they haven't picked it up. So as of this second, he is going into a lame duck year in his contract. And I understand, not for a variety of reasons, I understand why they aren't making a change right now, because if you need another lottery pick next year, what's the point of paying 2 coaches? And B, for wherever a lot of fans, I think, want to land on Chauncey, you may know better than I do, because you do a show on him on the Blazers daily, and you probably read more comments on stuff than I do. But my sense is that the fan base's opinion of Chauncey is not the highest. That's always just kind of been the sense that I've gotten. I personally think that maybe this is a little bit of this is colored by having gotten to know him pretty well over the last 3+ years and seeing kind of how it's evolved. I think he's somewhat grown into the job, and I think he has, been very open about what he needs to be better at. And I think this is very important for, a team in the position that the Blazers are in right now. He has never lost guys. Like, guys still respect him. Guys still listen to him. Guys still buy into what he is saying. And I think I'll put it this way. I've never covered a team that won 21 games that had as good of a locker room as the Blazers had last year, in terms of everybody getting along, everybody, there not being any drama, there not being any weird behind the scene, and I think at least some of that has to be attributable to coaching and kind of that stuff kind of being set, especially when you don't have somebody like Dame who's there to be like a tone setter among the players. I think I'll also say this. I would not be surprised if 2 years from now Chauncey gets another job and it goes a lot better than it went.
Oh yeah, coaches get better. Coaches get better.
I mean,
also,
Terry Stotts was kind of a washed out in a couple of places, and then when he got the job in Portland, it was the right mix, it was the right fit, and and Chauncey, again, wherever people here in Portland want to land on him, like that's not what his reputation is nationally. Like there's a reason that when the Suns fired Frank Vogel, Kevin Durant was pushing for Chauncey to get that job. This past
I don't think Chauncey would get this type of job. I've said this on the show before, and I really strongly believe it. If the Blazers had the roster they currently have, Chauncey Billups wouldn't apply for this job, and they wouldn't have hired him because it's not who he is.
And when he took the job, I mean, there were a lot of things that were different about it. I mean, and by the way, speaking of, things I've just noticed over the last couple of weeks, he's gone on 2 different podcasts that were hosted.
Been on a lot of podcasts, yeah.
Well, he was on the Rashid one, and then he was on the Carmelo one. And in both of them, he talked about, and this is something I've written several times since the season ended, that for a lot of different reasons and a lot of things that were out of his control, the job has not been what he signed up for. So it's like, I think at the end of this season, him and Joe are going to have to sit down and decide, A, is Chauncey the right coach for this team at the stage of the rebuild? And B, is this the right organization for what Chauncey's goals are for his own coaching career? And I think
my read on it is not even that. I don't think Chauncey Billups wants to coach a team like this. I wouldn't be.
I don't think that's a controversial thing to say either.
I don't think he wants to coach a team.
I think just look at their exit interviews in April. Like Chauncey gets up there and says, I'm hoping that this year we focus, it's less of a development focused thing and he focused more on winning. And then Joe gets up there right after him and says, we don't have enough talent yet. The focus is going to be on developing. So, I mean, this isn't like me reading into stuff. This is stuff that 2 guys said on the record on the same day, like back to back. So my prediction, and the way I've been saying it is until they either pick up that 5th-year option or give him an extension, my current operating assumption for how it's going to play out with him is that they're going to let him finish out the season, and then when his contract is up, then they don't fire him. They mutually decide to go in a different direction. I think there is going to be a coaching search next summer, but I don't think he's going to get fired in season because everybody came into the season knowing what the deal is. Like, I
would agree. I would be stunned if they picked up his option because then that means he gets a second lame duck year. It's like, ooh, I can't wait to get another lame duck year.
Honestly, like from an optics standpoint, it wouldn't be even if they want to let him go. It wouldn't be. I don't know if they'll do this because I don't know if the Vulcans want to just pay out another however much money it is, but Chauncey, I think if Chauncey wanted to make the argument that, he's been a good soldier throughout this whole thing because he's had so much stuff thrown at him that really was out of his control. And has kept a good face this entire time, even if they were going to fire him, picking up the option basically as a goodbye gift would not be the worst thing in the world to do. I don't think that's going to happen, but I maintain stunned. I think, I'm with you. I'll take the under on 83 games coached by Chauncey Billups. I think at 82 is where I would have it.
Same. Over under 200 free throw attempts for DeAndre Ayton. That would match his career high. Over under 200 3-point attempts. I'll rapid fire these last couple.
Under, because I don't know how much he's going to play because I think he's going to get shut down at some point. So just because of minutes and games played, I'm going to go under. Over
under 33-point attempts for him. His career high is 24 coming into the season.
I'm going to say over just because this is a year where it's like, who cares? Let's just try some weird stuff.
Yeah, so was last year. Okay. Who attempts more total threes, Donovan Clingan or DeAndre Ayton?
DeAndre Ayton.
Okay, and the last one for you. It's been a wonderful week of shows with you, Sean. I appreciate it. We will get to your plugs in a moment, but go subscribe to the Rose Garden Report on Substack. Over under 21.5 wins for the Portland Trailblazers.
Over just because I think they're not I think just having guys healthy is going to add 1 or 2. I think it's going to be 23 or 24. They're in that range. I think they're going to be in that range, but I think it's going to be more 23, 24.
That would be my guess too. It was 22 to 24 wins is actually right. And I would go over as well. I'll leave you on this. Are the Blazers better this season than they were last year?
I think so. I think they have. I think the addition. I think people are gonna realize, Deni Avdija is really good. Like, I think that's that's something. I think Klingon is gonna do. They basically lost like a whole year of production from Rob Williams, which I again, that's a whole. But like, now you replace that essentially. Let's say Rob doesn't even play next season. You have a backup center who is going to be a good rim protector. Like, I do think they got better. Do I think they're close to where they need to be as far as like where the rebuild
obviously
ends up? No, but I think they are better now than they were at the end of the season. Yes.
Yeah, and it's a safe bet that Scoot Henderson will be better because he was so bad to begin the year.
Yeah.
If you get a better version of DeAndre Ayton's first 25 games in a Blazers uniform were a nightmare, and then he kind of figured it out, but he was awful.
And then if you assuming Shaden is healthy, he's going to be better. Right. Like some of the other guys, the guys we haven't even talked about, like Ryan Rupert, I think is going to be. I don't know how much he's going to play, but that's a guy that I think is
going to crush it for the remix.
Oh yeah.
And
remix title loading with whoever their new head coach is.
Yeah, and Tumani could be really useful. He was coming around at the end of last season as someone we haven't mentioned.
Funny. We have Tumani was like one of their most consistent guys all last season, and we've done 3 of these podcasts. We haven't mentioned him or Jabari Walker one time.
Yeah, I think. Yeah. And like, you can, when you are young and you bring back, 13 of your 15 players, there's a chance you're banking a lot on internal improvement.
Maybe the Delano Banton shooting stuff from when he came over after the deadline, maybe that's real. Maybe he's your third guard or your fourth guard. Maybe that's a real thing.
Yeah. Maybe he
Who can say?
I can. I'll say it. He's at that 0 for 15 to end the season really sticks with me. I'll say it right now. I bet he can't shoot. I think they're better, but and you've mentioned this several times during this week. There is going to be a point when the Blazers commit to losing more aggressively. So that's when this over-under line gets a little bit dicey, right? It's like how many, when they really go for it, when they really jump off the edge and they dive in, it's like, how many wins do they already have? Because are they going to go like 1-21 to end the year or something outrageous like that? Like I believe in them. If they need to do it,
they have proven that they're very, very good at doing that when they need to.
Sean, if people are looking for more of your stuff, where can they find it?
You can go to rosegardenreport.com and subscribe. I would highly suggest becoming a paid subscriber. That's where the the way I've kind of started breaking it out is that the kind of basic news coverage that's like, you can get that stuff anywhere, but I need to cover it. That stuff's all free. A lot of the more in-depth, reporting and analysis and that kind of stuff, that's all paywalled. And I like to think over the course of the 2 years that I've been doing the Substack thing, I've kind of drilled into what people are interested in reading about and what kind of works. And I like to think I give, and you're a subscriber, you can land where you want to land on this, but I like to think I give people a quality product for what they pay for Blazers coverage. And there ain't a whole lot of options as far as,
listen, you literally aren't getting it anywhere else. So go subscribe to Sean, because if you're listening to this, and this is August 8th show, it's like, you're a freak.
Yeah.
You need your Blazer coverage. So if you're listening to this, if you're hearing my voice and you haven't subscried to the Rose Garden Report, you're doing it wrong. Go subscribe.
And what it does, it's not just, good. I think the content that I put out is, I'm obviously a little bit biased, but I put a lot into it. I think it's good, but also, the more people become paid subscribers, the more I'm able to do as far as like, went to Vegas for Summer League and went to Chicago for the draft combine and the lottery. And, being able to do all that stuff, I think is going to make the end product better. And I can only do that with more support from the readers. So it's that. And then to the extent that I don't really engage as much on Twitter as I used to, because obviously, like, why would you at this point, given what that site has turned into? But follow me on Twitter at Highkin, just my last name. It's pretty simple, but yeah. I would mainly direct people to the Substack and
it'll be linked in the episode subscription all week. This has been your week of Highkin. If you have missed any of the other shows, go back and listen. We talked about sort of the Blazers' direction and the trades that they have and have not made. We talked about the young core. We played a little game. It was a whole bunch of fun. Sean, thanks for hanging out this week. I really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on, Mike. This was a lot of fun.
All right, dear listeners, come back next week. Guess what? We do it again. 5 days a week, wherever you get podcasts, also on YouTube. I appreciate you listening. I'll talk to you soon.